Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best Wyll build guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. Now Wyll is going to be a warlock that just makes sense with the lore of the game, so we're going to keep him as is. Now the warlock is actually quite strong and there's a few different ways we're going to go about doing this, and I have a very specific build that I have in mind for this that fits the role playing of Wyll as well. Now Eldritch Blast is being the best cantrip in the game. Alongside that, it's up to you what you should take. I think Minor Illusion is fantastic, though, for grouping enemies together. At least one person should always have Minor Illusion at a time. So if you don't have anyone else with a Minor Illusion cantrip, put it on Wyll. If not, Mage Hand is pretty good. Friends is only good if you're like the face of the party. So you can go with Minor Illusion or Bone Chill if you want to go for a damaging cantrip outside of Eldritch Blast, but Minor Illusion is likely the best option here. Now, there's two different ways to go about doing this. There's two really powerful subclasses now. The Fiend will give you Dark One's Blessing, which gives you 4 temporary health points whenever you reduce an enemy's health to 0. And the Fiend gives you like Fireball, Cone of Cold, Wall of Fire, and a bunch of other spells later on down the road, which makes it my favorite. But the Great Old One, or Goo, as people call it online, this gives you the ability to launch make the creature frightened on a critical hit. Now, for the purposes of this build, we're going to go with the Great Old One. It's not one that I pick often. I prefer the Fiend. And if you want to go with the Fiend, feel free. But this gives us Dissonant Whispers, which can potentially frighten a creature and have disadvantage on ability checks. And then also Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which can knock a creature prone. So we're going to go with this here. As for our spells, I guess we can take those two off and choose different ones. I think that Hex is one of the best spells that a warlock gets. This gives you the ability to deal a bit of damage as a bonus action, but also gives disadvantage on ability checks of your choosing, so you can do like Constitution disadvantage or Dexterity. It's quite powerful, so we're going to go with that. And it's nice to have Armor of Agathis for certain builds, but I also like having Hellish Rebuke, which gives you the ability to use a reaction. So reacts to your next attacker with flames that deal 2 to 20 flame damage. So it can be nice to just deal a little bit of extra damage. For our spells, we're typically going to be using Eldritch Blast until later on in the game, which I'll get into what we'll do at that point. But for our ability stats, we're going to dump down Intelligence and Wisdom there. Constitution and Dexterity are big ones, so we're going to take that up to 16 for Constitution, which gives us 11 health points. We want our Charisma maxed out. Strength is something that I'll get into later. We don't really need Strength too much because we can use Pact of the Blade to allow us to use Charisma for our damage modifier. So this is what we want to go with. You can also take Dexterity up to 16 if you're okay with a little bit less health and you want to have your armor class a little higher, but somewhere around there is perfect. So we're going to leave it like that. Now, as far as the build goes, there's some really great options that we can go with. So for Warlock, level 2, we get to choose some Eldritch Invocations. We also get another spell. You can take Arms of Hadar to stop enemies from taking reactions, which is really nice to have because reactions can cause a lot of damage if you don't shut them down. Certain bosses have reactions you just don't want. So Arms of Hadar is a fantastic spell to take here. And Tasha's Hideous Laughter is a nice control spell to have. If you don't have someone else as a controller, go with Tasha or Arms of Hadar. But then also Armor of Agathis is quite nice as well. And this can be upcast to give you a little bit extra temporary health points and deal cold damage to any attackers. So either Arms of Hadar, Armor of Agathis, or Tasha's Hideous Laughter. I'm going to go with Arms of Hadar. Now for the Eldritch Invocations, 2 of the best is Agonizing Blast, which will add our Charisma modifier the damage, so we get a +3 there from Agonizing Blast, and then also Repelling Blast will make our Eldritch Blast knockback up to 4.5 meters, which is quite powerful and nice to have. So we're going to go with that there. And then as we get into level 3, this is where we get to pick our Pact Boon. So this is where the build really comes together and it gets interesting here. So we also get level 2 spells at this. So Cloud of Daggers can be a nice concentration to deal a little bit of slashing damage. Darkness is nice too for crowd control. I'm a big fan of Hold Person, which holds an enemy still. They can't move, act, or react. Attacks within 3 meters are always critical. If you have a melee focused group, this is fantastic. It's good regardless if you have that or not. Misty Step can be a nice one too. It does use a level 2 Warlock spell slot as a bonus action. Can be nice. I'm a big fan of Hold Person. If you don't have anyone else that has Hold Person, put it on Wyll, but otherwise you can go with a Cloud of Daggers. Most people prefer a Cloud of Daggers. Now, this is important. We get 3 different choices here. So Pact of the Chain gives us a summon. Pact of the Blade allows us to summon a pack weapon or bind the weapon that we're using, making it magical, and allows us to use Charisma as a spell cast, or the modifier for the damage instead of strength. So I think that Pact of the Blade here is the best option. Reason being, we can then use Charisma to deal our melee damage. So that allows us to continue to just dump strength and dex. There's also Pact of the Tomb, which gives us the ability to cast some different spells. I do think that Pact of the Blade is better. And at level 5, we get a little extra bonus. So we're going to stick with that. That is good for our level 3. Once we get to level 4, we also get another cantrip. So I think Bone Chill is kind of the best one here. A lot of creatures resist poison damage, so Bone Chill will give disadvantage on attack rolls and prevent from healing, so it's quite good for a cantrip. For our spells, you can go with the one of these here that you didn't take last turn, so Cloud of Daggers is a decent crowd control. Misty Step is also a nice one too for mobility's sake, so don't be afraid to go with that if you don't want Cloud of Daggers. And then we get ourselves a feat, and we're going to take ability improvement here. This allows us to take our charisma up to 18 and our dexterity up to 16, so increasing our armor class and our damage riders. Spell Sniper can be nice too. This gives you an increased chance of hitting a critical with Eldritch Blast. This is not an Eldritch Blast build though, and I'll be getting into an Eldritch Blast build later on because it is powerful, but we're going to take our charisma up to 18. We don't get the Hag's Hair to boost that, so that sucks, but we get our Deepened Pact here, so pleased with your service, your otherworldly patron adds new boons to the terms of your pact. You gain an extra attack with your pact weapon, so we get 2 attacks now, which is nice. So this puts us on par with every other level 5 class. For spells, we get level 3. Hunger of Hadar. This is one of the best spells. Now, I see a lot of people talking. I've had people ask in previous videos if you can stand in your own Hunger of Hadar. This is magical blindness, so even with the Eldritch Invocation, if we were to take the Devil's Sight, which gives us the ability to see in magic and non-magic darkness, for some reason it doesn't allow us to work that well in Hunger of Hadar. It'll still take the damage even if you do the saves. So this is maybe potentially bugged, but I've had issues getting this to work properly, so just wanted to mention that. I am a big fan of Hunger of Hadar, though, because this is a great crowd control. You can take this and then also use Plant Growth, and anyone that's in the Hunger of Hadar has a pretty much impossible time to get out of it, so those are 2 spells that go together very well. Counterspell is another fantastic spell, but the thing with Warlocks is you don't have as many spell slots as a Wizard or a Sorcerer, so you don't got a lot of options for Counterspell. So I think that Hunger of Hadar is the best option here. And as I said, you can also use Plant Growth to stop enemies and make them stuck in it, so that makes it great. And level 5 is when every class gets a big power-up. Now at level 6, we do get a Entropic Ward, which uses a reaction to impose disadvantage on an attack roll, which means they could miss. And then if they do miss, you get advantage on your next attack roll against them. But I'm going to add in something here that I think works pretty well. Warlock and Paladin have a lot of synergy together. This will allow us to use heavy armor. Wyll is good at melee range. Like a Warlock is kind of like a melee spellcaster. So I do have the weapon here for his questline that does use charisma. So we don't really need the Pact of the Blade, but you can always change out weapons. It's not like you have to use this particular weapon. For our we're gonna go Oath of Vengeance, giving us Inquisitor's Might. This is the Blade of Frontiers. I want to remind you guys, he is a knight, and yes, he is a Warlock, but I do think that the Paladin makes sense for Wyll. So, Inquisitor's Might gives us a little bit extra damage. Then we also have our Oath. So, the Paladin gives us Lay Hands, give a bit of healing, Divine Sense, and Inquisitor's Might. You can go with the other options, but I think that that's the best subclass. Now, we also get to choose a fighting style. So, if you want to go two-handed weapons, great weapon fighting is the way to go. Dueling, when you are wielding a melee weapon that is not two-handed or versatile in one attack and no weapon in the other, you deal an additional 2 damage with that weapon. So you can use a shield and get the damage. Defense, we're going to wear armor. You can get the bonuses to that. I do think dueling works great, though, because we're going to be using a shield for this. So I'm going to go with that, but you can also take defense and put on heavy armor to get an extra 1 armor class. That is also really great as well. For our Paladin spells, Command being one of the greatest ones. I think that Command's fantastic. We would normally get Command from the Warlock, but we didn't choose a subclass, so you can go with that one here as Command drop. If you have an enemy that drops their weapon, you can pick it up, and they're basically useless. Taking all the smites is recommended because they provide good damage. We also have Divine Smite, which is kind of the best version of the smite. But taking thunder damage, fire damage, and psychic damage with the potential to frighten a target is really good as well. These do use a bonus action too, so just be mindful of that. But they also deal good amounts of damage, so they're nice to have. Now, for the rest of it, Bless is a great concentration. If you don't have any other concentrations that you're focusing on, that's a really good one to take. Shield of Faith will increase armor class by 2, and that's another concentration. Divine Favor is another concentration, but it'll deal additional 1 to 4 radiant damage, so any damage riders are welcomed here. So you can go Cure Wounds, but that's not really the best use of a spell slot. Potions exist as well, so we're going to go with this here, and yeah, this does get quite powerful. I'll get into why. Now, for Paladin level 3, we get ourselves a Divine Health, prevents disease from affecting you. We get Abjure Enemy, Frighten an Enemy, Vow of Enmity, gain advantage on attack rolls. This can be a bonus action, so if you have a low chance to hit, you can post that on them, and you'll have a higher chance of hitting with your bonus action. We also get Bane. It's fair. Hunter's Mark is another bonus action, 1 to 6 damage. And then every time you hit it with an attack, it deals extra damage, so this is kind of nice. And then there's some gear that will upgrade that as well. We get another spell slot, so you can take Heroism. Cure Wounds is not the worst thing if you're very desperate for heal. You can take that. So we get 7 prepared spells at level 3. Now at level 4, we get another spell here, so we're filling out this quite quickly. Shield of Faith maybe, or Protection from Good and Evil. It doesn't really matter too much. But we're going to take another ability improvement here and take our Charisma up to 20. That just seems to be the best option here for dealing more damage, making your hits land, because both Paladin and Warlock are going to use Charisma. Now, at level 5 Paladin, we get ourselves an extra attack. This does stack with the extra attack from Warlock. The only thing is, this doesn't work in Honor mode. So, if you're playing Honor mode, it's fine to go full stacks of Warlock. I have a different build guide on that, but 3 attacks is pretty nice. And this is 3 attacks at level 10, which is quicker than the fighter gets 3 attacks. It's quite powerful, and we can cast spells. So, pretty nice. We got a whole person from our Oath, but we already took it from Warlock, so if you're going Warlock, you can take something different than whole person. We also get Misty Step, which I was talking about previously, and Branding Smite, which is nice to stop enemies from turning invisible. So we're going to take Branding Smite. Protection from Poison is okay, or Magic Weapon. +1 to attack and damage rolls is always good. Lesser Restoration or Aid is a decent one too. I'll take Aid because you can upcast this and it'll increase the health points. And you can even do that on your summons. So if you have any summons, you can give them a little bit extra health, which is always nice. That's what we're going to take for our spells there. Now, level 6 gives us the Aura of Protection, which will give us a +6 or +5 to our saving throws, which is nice. Or we can go back into Warlock and get Entropic Ward. Or we can add in 2 levels of Fighter to get Action Surge, allowing us to do 6 attacks in 1 turn, which is pretty powerful. I think that is a great option. Then you can also take the Fighting Style to increase your armor class. I am going to take another 2 levels of Warlock for the purposes of this build, but you can add in Fighter. It is a great option as well. Now, we get ourselves another level 3 spell, so we already got Misty Step there. Counterspell is not a bad thing just to take if you don't want to take anything else here, because it sometimes can be a game changer if you have an enemy about to wipe out your team with a fireball. Remove Curse can be pretty nice as well, but usually you'll have that on like a cleric, but then the Entropic Ward is really nice just to take. So we're going to go with that, and then we're going to get ourselves a level 4 spell here. So there's a few options that we can go with. Everett's Black Tentacles gives difficult terrain, attacking and smothering creatures within. This can't be stacked with... This won't be stacked with the Hunger of Hadar because they're both concentrations, but if you have a way to get plant growth, you can pop that down, as I said, and it stops enemies from leaving, so that is nice. Blight is a decent spell, does maximum damage to plants. Banish can take out an enemy. So really go with whatever option you think is best for your class. I think Blight is decent. Dimension Door is nice to have. Everett's Black Tentacles if you're not using Hunger of Hadar. The Difficult Terrain is nice just for stopping enemies in their tracks. Dominate Beast can help if you in certain fights, but it's not really amazing to take overall. So I'll go with Blade just for another damaging attack. So if there's any plants, that's perfect to use against it. Now, there's some great Eldritch Invocations that we get here. So, Confusion is really nice. Book of Ancient Secrets will give us Ray of Sickness, Chromatic Orb, which can be upcasted and change the damage type, or Silence, which is nice to have as well. But I think that Dreadful Word, giving us a level 4 Confusion, is probably the best option at level 7, because Confusion is like Fireball, but for crowd control. So confuse a group of enemies, causing them to attack at random, wander around aimlessly, and occasionally skip turns in the stupor. For 3 turns, great concentration. The ability to use a Warlock spell slot on this is fantastic. And then we can change out our hold person, because we already have it, and then we can take another level 4 spell. So whatever one you want. A Fear can be pretty decent. It makes the target drop everything, which is nice because you can pick up their weapon. Or Everett's Black Tentacles, but we're going to go with Fear, just because we have a few other level 4 spells there. But there it is, and then we're going to get into the gear here now. So we're going to go ahead here. We have a 19 armor class as is. So this for helmet, Mask of Soul, Perception, +2 to attack rolls, initiative rolls, and perception checks. Nice just for an increased chance to hit. We also got the Shade Slayer Cloak. So we're focusing on critical hits because we have the Great Old One, which will frighten the creature on critical. So number needed to roll is -1. For the Potent Armor, or Potent Robe here gives your cantrips an additional damage equal to Charisma modifier, so this will give us more damage on top of Eldritch Blast, which is really nice, and it looks cool too. But since we do have heavy armor proficiency, we can take a heavy armor. There's a few different ways we can go about doing this, so it's nice to have heavy armor. If we want to go full heavy armor, we can have a nice 25 armor class, although this one anyone can use. There's other ways to go about doing this. We can take the Armor of Agility, which will give us a pretty good armor class as well, 25 there, and it doesn't give us give us disadvantage on stealth, and it gives us a +2 to saving throws. So this can be a great armor if you don't want to go with heavy. It ends up being a little bit stronger than most heavy armor, so Armor of Agility is pretty nice to take. Gloves of Dexterity, you could dump Dexterity with that, and then you can also use something like the Daredevil gloves, which give a +1 bonus to spell attack rolls, so you're going to land more of your spells, and your ranged spell attacks are made as melee spell attacks when adjacent to a hostile creature. So we can cast in combat, up close range, and we won't be penalized for it. So that's really nice if you don't want to use our smites. There's also some other gloves that are pretty decent, but I do think that the best ones to go with probably Daredevil gloves, is you're going to be in up close range most of the time. Evasive Shoes will give us +1 to armor class, and we're also going to throw on the Dead Shot, which will further give us a greater chance. This gives us a 5% more chance of hitting a critical hit, so that's really nice. And for the weapon, we're going to use the Infernal Rapier. Gives a +1 bonus to spell save DC, and then it uses Charisma, and also allows us to summon a planar ally Cambion. So this is really nice because this will give us the ability to just bring in another summon, and they're quite strong. They have 82 health. They have the ability to do Rays of Fire, which is up to 54 damage. You can charm enemies. You can use Rush Attack. So this is really nice just to have. Draining Kiss as well. So there's some pretty powerful abilities from this that I think make this a good weapon, especially since it's Will's like weapon for his. You can also not take Pact to the Blade if you use this, because it'll use Charisma as your damaging modifier either way. But as I said, if you want to go with the 2 weapon, you can go with like the Baldur Great Giant Slayer, which is pretty decent. Although this is more for strength focused builds. Defender Flail can take your armor class up, which is nice to have. There's a bunch of different weapons that can suit this, but you can even go with the Staff of Cherished Necromancy if you want to just focus on casting spells. But I think that going with like the Infernal Rapier, it just makes sense, even though we are Pact of the Blade. The Pact of the Blade gives us that extra attack, so that's why we want it. Now, Viconia's Walking Fortress gives us a nice +3 armor class and a few different things like Warding Bond. For our gear, we can go with Killer Sweetheart. Next attack roll will be critical, then we'll frighten them with it, which is really nice. Crypt Lord Ring is another nice ring to have because this gives a create undead, which we're not really a summoning build, but it's nice to have summons anyways. And then Spellcrux Amulet gives us the ability to restore spell slots, which is a powerful ability. But we'd also take the Amulet of Greater Health to take our health up to 140, which is quite a bit, making us a very tanky class because we got 24 armor class, we got that 140 health, and everything about this build is pretty powerful. So that is the best Wyll build guide for in Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.